What's up guys, Meredith with ExtremeTerrain.com, and today we are checking out the Jeep License by Mammoth 2.5-inch front leveling kit with shocks fitting all 2020 and newer JT Gladiators. Now if you don't love the way your JT looks with the big rake in the front and you want a leveling kit that's going to bring it up but also help when it comes to bettering the performance of your Jeep, this is going to do the trick. Now this will be great if you're looking for more of an entry style lift kit but also want more than a spacer leveling kit to fit a bigger tire, get a better stance, and also up the ride quality for better off and on-road performance. Not only will this offer more capability at a good price point, but it's also Jeep licensed, so you can ensure factory style quality if you prefer to stick with Jeep backed mods. This kit will offer a good bit of features for your JT, including better ground clearance for better maneuverability off-road and to avoid obstacles that you may have previously come in contact with, but also some extra room in the wheel wells for some larger and more aggressive tires. While you may be able to fit up to a 35-inch tire with this kit, you may have some minor rubbing, especially when you're articulating off-road, so I would recommend sticking to a 33 because that's going to avoid any rubbing and give you the most room in your wheel well for the best performance off-road. Now, along with the increase in height, this kit will also help with a more responsive experience with your ride thanks to the monotube gas charge design, tightening up your cornering and helping out with body roll and feeling a little bit more controlled, and also ensuring a long lifespan out of the design. Now this kit will come with a couple components, but the one that is going to give you that height is the coils here, made of a steel construction with a black powder coat on top. It's going to resist any rust on the metal. Now the shocks are also a big bonus here, being long enough to accommodate for the additional height, having a tough steel body with a black powder coat and an OE chrome hardened piston rod, both resisting rust and damage from any impacts. The monotube gas charge build also resists shock fade incredibly well, making sure there's no aeration within the shock to cause any squishiness, allowing these to take a fair amount of abuse. Now the rest of the kit is going to include what you need to accommodate for that added height. So in the front, you're getting new end links. These are going to have a steel material construction and a nice black powder coat like the rest of the kit. They're also going to have high density polyurethane bushings, which are longer lasting than the rubber factory ones to help with a more controlled experience in the front. And these are also going to come with some thick plastic bump stop extensions. These are going to prevent any contact with the fender or tire to fender, limiting the travel so you can keep solid performance. This kit will be about $470, which will be more than the average spacer lift in price, but much more affordable compared to other inclusive lift kits, putting this at a great middle ground and making it a great entry-level style choice. And the extra couple dollars compared to the spacers will give you some better handling and capability in addition to the height, and you won't have to get too deep into your suspension if you also want to keep it more to the simple side and again affordable while still getting all of the necessities that you need. Now it even comes with a 3-year limited warranty, so along with the Jeep back quality that this offers, you can also have some peace of mind that these components are covered. This will be a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, and with the right tools and setup and experience, it should take you about 3 hours to get the job done. Now suspension is always an undertaking, so I always recommend if you don't have experience, please take your Jeep to a local trusted shop, and after the install, you will need to make sure that you have an alignment just to make sure everything's back in check. Now at this point, we can head over to our shop, check out a detailed breakdown on how you can get this onto your JT. Again, if you're doing this and tackling this project at home, or you're simply just curious about the process. So that is going to wrap it up for my review. Let's go ahead and jump into the install.
The tools you'll need for this project are an impact gun, a 3/8 drive ratchet, a 15, an 18, and a 21 millimeter swivel socket, or a swivel joint and a 21 millimeter socket, a 6 millimeter, a 7/32 Allen wrench, a 14, an 18, and a 21 millimeter wrench, a pair of needle nose pliers, a pair of side cutters, a ratchet strap, and some zip ties. Hi everyone, today we're installing a leveling kit on our Gladiator, so let's get started by watching a short video on how to uninstall the stock suspension.
So now moving on to the front, the first thing we're going to do is remove our shock. We're going to use an 18 millimeter socket and an 18 millimeter wrench. So now we can take our 18 millimeter swivel socket and our 18 millimeter wrench, and remove this bolt. To make the bolt come out easier, we could raise up our pull jack so it levels the bolt out with the mount. Now we can move it up to the top. So now moving to the top, we're gonna remove this bolt with our 18mm swivel socket. So we can push our wheel well out of the way. We can remove our bolt. Hold your shock. And now your shock is removed. Now we can take a 15mm swivel socket and remove our brake line bracket. Set that off to the side, and we can thread our nut back on. So now we're gonna remove our sway bar end link. We're gonna take our 18mm wrench and our 18mm swivel socket and remove these two. So now for our top nut, it's gonna be the same process as the rear. We're gonna take our 18mm ratcheting wrench, slide that onto our nut, then our 6mm Allen key, we can insert that into the stud. Now we can remove our nut. Now we can remove our tools. We can remove this using our hand. Now you can repeat that process on the other side. Now that your shocks and sway bar end links are removed on both sides, we're gonna remove our track bar. So we can take a 21mm swivel socket and a 13/16 or a 21mm wrench to remove this first bolt. Now we can take our 21mm swivel socket and remove this bolt. Make sure that you hold your track bar because it will fall. Now your track bar is removed. Next, we're gonna remove our four-wheel drive actuator. So we can pull out on this white tab and press down. Now we can remove. Now we'll remove our breather tube. We can take our needle nose pliers, press down on our clamp. We can work our breather tube off. Now we can remove our coils. So now we're gonna evenly lower our pull jacks so we can remove our coils. Then we're gonna come under and slowly lower down our axle. Now we can remove our coil. We can bring down our rubber grommet too. Now you can repeat that process on the other side.
All right, now we're ready to install our spring. And along with our spring, we have a bump stop extender as well. Now, if you put this on first, you're gonna find it very difficult to get the spring over the top of this isolator, or I'm sorry, over this extender, because it sits right there. So you're gonna have an extra length that you're going to have to install this. So what I like to do is just put the bump stop extender inside the coil spring and then use a zip tie to zip tie the bump stop extension to the coil spring. So you can just let that hang in there like so, and then you can just have to deal with putting the spring in over the standard perch. Now you just want to make sure that the beveled side of the extender is towards the top of the spring. And the top of the spring is going to be this narrower coil at the very top. You'll see that it's very thin here as far as where it's centered, as opposed to the bottom, which is all the way around. So with that said, we can go ahead and install our spring, making sure that our lower spring coil here lines up with the stop on the isolator. Now you also want to make sure that the stock isolator for the bottom and the top of the spring are still in place. If not, you'll need to put them back in. So let's go ahead and put our spring in now. Line up the end of our coil spring with the stop on the isolator. Go ahead and raise our jack so that the coil is got some tension on it. And once we have that, we can go ahead and cut our zip tie. And now using our beveled bolt and our nylock lock nut, we can go ahead and get this installed. All right, now we'll put our bolt through the top of our bump stop extender. Make sure that it goes through the pre-drilled hole. So now we'll put our nut up underneath our extender here. Start our bolt into the nut. And now using a 14 millimeter socket or wrench, we'll go ahead and put it onto the nut. And then using a 7/32 Allen bit on top. Now, if you use the socket to start this, eventually you are going to run out of space in the socket. So you're going to have to switch to your 14 millimeter wrench. All right, now we're ready to install our front shock. And you'll notice the difference between the front and the rear shock. The front shock has this long shoulder on the top of it here. So we'll go ahead and put this back up into place. And then using the original bolt, go ahead and secure it to the vehicle. And we'll tighten it down with our 18 millimeter socket. Now, as you can see, there's quite a difference between the bottom of the shock and the shock mount here. So now we can go ahead and raise our differential back up into place, get our holes lined up for our shock, and get those reattached at the bottom. Now, once you've got your holes lined up, go ahead and insert your bolt, attach your nut, and tighten them down with your 18 millimeter wrench and your 18 millimeter socket. And now you can go ahead and repeat that whole process for the other side. Now, using the supplied nuts and flat washer and a bolt, we can go ahead and attach our new sway bar end link. And then tighten them down with our 18 millimeter socket and our 18 millimeter wrench. And you can repeat that for the other side as well. All right, now we're ready to reinstall our track bar. So we'll put this up into place up on the frame, insert our bolt, and put our nut on loosely for now. Now we can go to the other end. All right, now as you can see, our holes don't exactly line up now because it shifted once we disconnected this and we installed the new springs. So we're gonna have to shift our differential over to the driver's side in order to be able to line up these holes. And one of the ways that you can do that is by using a heavy-duty ratchet strap, attach it to the frame, attach it to the axle, and then ratchet it until the holes line up. So that's what we're going to do here. All right, so there's a hole on the outside of the frame on the driver's side, right behind the coil spring. So we're going to hook one end of our ratchet strap into that hole, and the other end we're going to wrap around this support gusset right here and attach it there. Now we can go ahead and just start ratcheting this in slowly so that we can shift the axle over and get those holes lined up. Now check our alignment. Our holes are lined up, so we can go ahead and insert our bolt, insert our nut, Now we can go ahead and tighten them down with our 21 millimeter socket and our 21 millimeter wrench. All right, now we can go ahead and reattach our vent hose here. So we'll squeeze the clamp with our needle nose pliers, open it up, get that attached. Now we'll go ahead and plug in our 4-wheel drive monitor. Make sure you push in on the locking tab. Now we can reattach our brake line bracket and tighten that down with our 15 millimeter socket. And now you can go ahead and attach the brake line bracket for the other side, and your front installation is complete. Now for the rear, we're going to remove the shock, doing this lower mount first using our 21 millimeter socket and our 21 millimeter wrench. And you might want to support the rear end and raise it up a little bit to take some of the tension off the suspension. And that'll get your lower bolt out. All right, now we'll do the same thing for the upper. Make sure you hold your shock so it doesn't fall. And it's out. Now we're going to install our new shock by reversing the procedure for uninstall. We'll put the upper into place. Go ahead and use our 21 millimeter socket to help get it in. Attach our nut. All right, now we can install our lower shock mount bolt. And tighten it up with our 21 millimeter socket and our 21 millimeter wrench. Now we'll tighten up our upper bolt as well. And you can repeat that process for the other side.
So that is going to wrap it up for my review and the install of the Jeep License by Mammoth 2.5-inch front leveling kit with the shocks, fitting all 2020 and newer JT Gladiators, and you can find this right here at extremeterrain.com.